Hi, how's it going? There's a question that's arisen that has been a topic of investigation for me personally on this physical spiritual journey of life. I would like to keep it broad, but in the sense that it's been a question of meditation. That's what a question is, a meditation kind of thing, and that is how is one to discern when the body is telling you it's time to rest, and how is that any different from the impetus towards being not being lazy? So that question again can be thought of in terms of the structure of working with your limitations, but it also means, I guess, it prompts one to discover the warning signs. Let's hope that it doesn't get that drastic, but physical pain is usually a good indication. I'll get onto that in a minute. The utility of pain, what pain is meant to be serving, in the sense of there's that maxim of no pain, no gain kind of thing. Look, I'm not going to throw a whole bunch of motivational quotes because it's necessary to rest sometimes. Like what it is said that the darkest hour is right before the dawn, and the times when you feel like giving up is usually the times when you're right close next to it. But look, again, there isn't any point in just going to the gym or doing your routine if you're just going through the motions and you're not there. You're not physically connecting, or you're not connecting with what is essentially the breath. I'll get onto that in a minute as well. But to be able to discern, is there any point in just doing something if you're supposedly not in it? So then, firstly, it becomes a matter of asking yourself why. Why am I doing this? And then, based on that answer, obviously, we've all got our reasons and things like that. What in spirituality is called the sankalpa, the motivation, the inspiration, the determination, the will, all that stuff is good, but at the same time, that would prompt one to kind of double check oneself. How do I know if what I'm doing is going to actually be profitable, beneficial? Because a lot of the work of spirituality isn't. When there are results, they're kind of fleeting and fading. So anyway, what I've come to discern about this, and in terms of using one's own look, it's really a matter of routine. I think routine serves that answer. At least you'll be able to find it there. Um, I've come from a spiritual background, which means that I've managed to use the blueprint of yoga in the physical spiritual practice. And in yoga, we talk of the qualities of nature. So, first and foremost, it's a matter of aligning yourself with nature. The natural forces, all forces are under the control of nature. One might feel like they're Superman at times, but essentially that's still under the control of nature. So you can come to discern your limitations, as it were, working with limitations. So these three qualities of nature, one could think of the qualities of a rock and the stability of the rock, and how that rock is really not going to go anywhere, for better or worse. It's not going anywhere. So in that perspective, one finds grounding, stability, dedication, patience, perseverance. Think of a rock, lapping up against water. It would take millions of years for that rock to get moved in some kind of shape, just due to the pressures of water. And on the other hand, in yoga we have the Rajoguna, which is the spirit of fiery determination and will and not letting anything get in the way. And that's the attitude that you got to have. If you actually want to achieve something, you got to become like fire, as it were, or really, really rapidly move in water. And in between these two qualities is something that's called the sattva guna, which is which I borrow from yoga. Sattva guna is stability, balance, nurturing oneself between these two qualities. It's also translated as rhythm, and that works in a way that you can kind of work with rhythm. Not so much that it's malleable in that sense that you can bend and adapt to your own. Essentially, you have to be really honest with yourself when it comes to these sort of physical spiritual practices. But rhythm will give a kind of blueprint as to when it's time to do this, when it's time to do that. That's because nature works with you. Nature rewards efforts. And it can pick you up and put you to where you need to go, but at the same time, a lot of physical work is sort of contrary to nature. There are times when the body is just absolutely... Anyway, so I'm swinging back and forth here. Point is that it is said that it can take 2 weeks until a habit forms a natural part of your system. So those days you might not feel like waking up and hitting it, going for that run, pumping the iron, doing the yoga. This sort of hacking of the body means that you're working with nature, and the body can then just sort of do its own thing before that realization comes. I'm actually supposed to be doing this. That right effort is kind of established. And that's the method to the madness. Now this word hacking has come about, like biohacking. It's a word that's borrowed from the computer terminology of the 21st century, and it's a good word. It means, people who do biohacking are those who take nootropics and supplements, and there are a lot of influencers there saying to get up at 5 a.m. and do this and do that to put your body into a state of shock, to be able to manipulate the neural connections that you have with your physical environment and so forth. And that's the wonderful world of biohacking. But at the same time, it is a portmanteau kind of thing, and we have to remember that it's not a computer. The body is not a computer. It's a good metaphor, meaning that you can study it. Certain actions, causes will always produce these kind of actions, but at the same time, the body is an organic, flowing kind of thing that's made up of lots of complex connectivity and slight little modifications upon diet and effort and breathing and routine. It's very, very subtle. So take that scientific approach to understanding the body, and if you've got the time and leisure and the dedication and the resources, go ahead and study the body like a scientist, like you're detached from it, because that'll yield some really positive results. That'll yield a kind of healthy detachment from the body. But at the same time, we must know that the body is gentle. You have to be gentle with it. The body is flowing and organic, and it's not a computer. You have to allow for spontaneity and those times of rest, and it's well mentioned also in the gym community, that rest, 8 hours sleep is pretty much necessary it's just as important. Some would go to say, some rather Zen influencers would go to say rest is just as important. Getting your 8 hours sleep is just as important, because it gives you time to let's say claim the muscle. So let's leave it at that. It's rhythm which will show you the answer when you need to be pushing yourself and when you need to cut back and know your limitations.